how do you transport frozen food to Nigeria? What type of cooler? And how did you start your business with little or no capital?
The question said, how do we deliver to Nigeria? We actually deliver in the UK, but they are Nigerian dishes. So they're Nigerian inspired. A lot of them are very healthy, which is why we are fond of the word Ije. Ije, because they are very Igbo-centric, very Bayelsa, Calabar region centric, because these are leaves that are in sources that are very, very healthy, no additives, crunchy, very nutritious. We package them specially, and we send to your homes, offices, events, through special packaging. So you order on our website, and then we take your order, prepare it from fresh, or arrange it from fresh, depending on what it is, and then we send it through a courier to your home. If you log on to our website, the instructions are there. It's easy as ABC. But if you have a problem, if you are not sure of what we do, please take down my number, 07949 536 008, and send a WhatsApp message. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Sorry, Sister Charity.
How did you start your business with little or no capital?
That was the second part to the question. Pardon me. Thank you. How do we start the business from nothing? It was by doing a lot of research and finding out that when you network and you find out people who have what you do not have, there's a way that you can collaborate with people so that you can get going with what you want to do. We started our business without a freezer, ironically. We started our business without physical premises, ironically. We started our business, with literally nothing. What we did is we collaborated with people who already had the infrastructure. There are a lot of people who have shops, who have large factory units where there's a lot of butchery going on. These people tend to deliver to shops, but there was no one who was delivering online. You understand? There was no one who was delivering through a courier service. And so we tapped into that by getting these people, the people that we trust, that we have, because we work from a regulated kitchen now, and we worked in a regulated fashion, so people who are regulated, who sell fresh produce. We have a passion for fresh, nutritious produce. So we don't just buy from anywhere and deliver to you. If we're selling goat meat, it has to be goat meat. If we're selling snails, peppered snails, then they have to be big and they have to be fresh. So we deal with people who can supply fresh items. We partner with people who have the infrastructure. We pack on their premises, and we deliver to you. That is how we started. Obviously, that is not how we are running now, but anything is possible. You can actually start by collaborating with people. Now we have a regulated kitchen. We work from our own premises, but that is how we started. Yeah.
You can hold on to the mic.
You spoke about how you can tie your passion to your mission, your vocation and profession. When I left that seminar, I got a bit more confused. I'm sorry, I'll just say, because I asked myself, what is my passion? And I know you said a lot, and I'm hoping to get in touch with you. But I want to ask, if someone comes to you and just says, Sister Temi, I don't know what my passion is, what is that one word that you would say to the person that will sort of direct them on what exactly their passion is? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Can you hear me? I said something, and I said kites. When you put a kite in the sky, what happens? You fly. And for me, how I work with my clients is kite stands for your knowledge, your interest, your talent, your experiences, and your skill. When you look at those, that is where you find what you're passionate about. Those are God-given things that you can use to clearly define yourself. When you find them, you will fly. So what you need to look at is Ask yourself, what am I knowledgeable about that I can turn into a product or a service? What are my interests? What captivates me? What engages me? How do I relate with people? When you talk to people, what do you talk about? Do you talk about medical supplies? Do you talk about parenting? Do you talk about Nigerian food or cars? Whatever you do is an indication of where your passion lies. Then I talked about your talent. Your talent is what God has given you to use in your place of purpose. What are you talented? Some people know how to do hair, and I use my sister as an example. She loves to sew, she loves to mix with people, and she teaches really well, and she's qualified to teach. We combine that together, and now she does sewing workshops. She doesn't want to sew, but she's able to simplify sewing and help people sew. So she's oversubscribed when she does her workshops, and it's all about combining your key strengths. I call them your dominant passions, or the dominant components of your passion. And there's also your experiences. I talked about your experiences. Whether your experience is good or bad, you can use it for good. You can use it as a solution. I used bereavement as an example. If you've gone through bereavement, for instance, and you come out successfully, it's a service you can offer at work. You can tell your boss, you know what, I've been there, I've come through this. And I said, for example, maybe, God forbid, somebody in a high position loses a family member and they're struggling. Because you have a blog online that supplies information to people going through bereavement, and it's become quite popular. Guess what happens? People tap into that. They call on you. They ask you to come and supply the service, and they pay you for it. So it's being able to use those guides to identify your key strengths. I hope that helps. Yeah?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Can we try and keep the answer just a little bit shorter the next time? Thank you, ma'am.
My question is for Sister Ijoma. Being in the food business, how do you face daily challenges?
How do you face daily challenges? I suppose you mean how do we resolve the challenges that we face daily? Obviously, you didn't attend our session. Just joking. How do we face our daily challenges? Firstly, we have an ethos that is, do not worry. God is able to do exceeding abundantly beyond that which we can ask or even dare to imagine. So, when you have a challenge, you have to first of all say that to yourself, and then think through it. Analyze what the problem is. Think about how the problem can be resolved. Identify why you cannot resolve it. Maybe you don't have the means, you don't have the skills, you don't have the money. Pray, and then ask God to help you to know how to resolve the challenge. And then network. Thank you very much. We said that a lot in the group. A lot of us are sitting here, we're like time bombs. Because like our sister just shared, we have talents, we have skills, we have the know-how for what we are interested in or what we have experienced, like she said. But if you do not talk to the person next to you, you're never going to know that in this room full of hundreds of time bombs, that somebody is able to help you with what you need. So, network with intention. Don't network just to discuss how nice the jollof rice tastes. Don't network just to tell somebody, I like you, I like what you said, blah, blah, blah. Those are all very good. What have you gained? Time is ticking. Spot your opportunities around you. God speaks through Christians, and he speaks through non-Christians who are around you every day. God ministers to you even through negative circumstances. God can give you answers even through your customers, for goodness sake. We have had a lot of that. People just flood us with messages on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is very powerful. My number again is 07949 536 008. WhatsApp, network.
You can hold on to the mic now.
Okay, so my question is to Miss Ocean.
I don't know if I got that right. So we talked about setting goals, organizational goals, setting goals for your business. So if you work for an organization that year after year they're setting goals from the top and they hand it over to you and they say, this is where we're going this year, and they really haven't got your input, and they're not on the shop floor, like I work in a classroom, they're not in the classroom. Sometimes we feel the management don't really understand what's going on in the classroom day after day, and you don't buy into the vision. What do? Do you just leave the organization, or do you find a way? Yeah. Do you resign and go elsewhere because you really don't want to put your passion in there? They're heading in a direction you don't believe in. So what do you do?
Okay, thanks for that question. I think I always start from the position of everything I do to the glory of God. And if I believe that I've been planted somewhere, and that's where God called me to, even though I'm not enjoying it. I've been in that position before. I worked in an organization for 5 years. It wasn't about the ethos of the organization. It wasn't about the goals or the vision. It was about the people around me. They were horrible people. That's the bottom line. But I knew God planted me there, so I had to do my best while I was there. The circumstances you describe about if the organizational goals, you are struggling to see how you can deliver it because it doesn't really match with the way things work on the front line, on the shop floor. My advice is to turn it on its head and say, right, okay, you've given me these goals. I'm struggling to see how, so you're thinking this in your head, I'm struggling to see how this will work, is to take an alternative back to your manager. It's not about presenting as an alternative, but saying, okay, you want us to go to this area. This is how I am planning to get there. What do you think? So in a way, you force your manager and your leaders into a participative goal-setting approach by bringing something, by saying to them, this is how I'm planning to do it. Will that meet what you want? And that way, you can start to engineer and recreate the direction of travel and have your input. So it's about saying, okay, I understand where we're going. I understand what we're trying to do with the organization. This is how I plan to reach it. And through that conversation, you will start to see there will be a meeting of ways, and there will be clarity for the leaders above who can't see what the challenges you have, can start to understand some of those challenges, and they will start to also redefine the approach that they take. So it's about also sort of holding the mirror up and saying, this is what I plan to do, and getting their input. So rather than going off on your own and doing something different, bring them back in and just say, this is what I plan to do. That's what I would do.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you very much. Any more questions? There's one over here.
Praise the Lord. This question goes to Faronke again. During this section, you mentioned something about setting well-written goals. And you mentioned there are 5. I don't quite understand how you analyze the 5 goals. Do you mind highlighting us again? Thank you.
Okay. I talked about setting SMART objectives. And SMART is an anagram, if you like, which talks about ensuring that your goals, one, are specific. So your objectives are specific. So you're very clear about what it is you're trying to do. That they're measurable. So you will be in a position to know when you've arrived at the point you want to in terms of your objective. That they are achievable. And the example I gave in the room was that I might decide I want to be a dancer. But actually, given where I am in my time of life and my shape, it probably wouldn't be achievable for me to be a ballet dancer. But that's being realistic. So that's the R. And then T is timely. And that's about when do you plan to get to that objective being delivered. Because that goes back to your measurement. Because you'll know whether you're there. Or you will also know if you're off track. So if it's going to take you longer to get there, what are you going to do to adjust what you're doing to enable you to deliver what you're trying to do?
Somebody asked this question. I'll just read it out. So you tell me which person, please, it's for. It says, is it advisable to borrow money to start a business? Who asked that question, please? Okay. So which group? Seminar? 3? Let it go to... Okay.
It's for her. Both of us can answer. I wouldn't subscribe to starting off with a loan. Okay, I would always advise that you look inward. What do you have? Where can you start with? If you need to get somebody to partner with you, if you need to get a soft loan, what I mean by soft loan, you are not there's no interest burden that comes with it. So you start, and then as you grow, you can then leverage. But don't leverage a business that is worth nothing on credit. Because you'll find out that the next few profit that you're going to make, you're just making it for the bank or whoever gave the money to you. So don't start. Look at, what do I have in the house? Sometimes it might be that your beautiful jewelry that you need to sell and start. When things are going well, you can buy more jewelry. You know, so what is that little jar of oil that is in your, look inwards, and start from there, and then you can then grow it. When you now have the clientele and things are beginning to move, then you can do a little bit of leveraging just to give it a push. But don't leverage more than 20%, maximum 30%. Otherwise, all your profit is going to go into the interest burden. You are going to be paying somebody interest, and then you won't have profit to plow back to expand your business. So I wouldn't say start with on a borrowed funds, really. Okay.
Yeah, basically, I think she's answered the question. I will just add something. It depends on the industry that you want to start. Depends on the industry. Many of the industries we have, you don't need to borrow money yet. Because sometimes you can always leverage strength to get what you need. Because you have people who want to maybe be cab drivers, and the first thing they want to do is to get the car because Uber will not accept it. But you can go into a lease arrangement that you don't have the total burden of it. You pay by the month as you get the thing. When you made enough profit, you buy your own car. So you have so many things you can do apart from borrowing, because the weight of debt is not something you want to start with. Particularly when it's an industry that you are not, it's a pilot, you're just starting, you're not sure. You don't want that burden. Avoid it as much as you can. And then there are some that you probably would need a leverage, but even that I'll tell you to question your experience first before you go for leveraging. You know, if you want to, just like if you want to get a house, you are looking to leverage the place, but be careful how you go into debt. It's always not a good idea. Huh? Okay.
Auntie Lola, your presentation. Maybe it was like your intro part, and you said reaction versus response. Can you just throw more light? How can we manage not reacting but responding? Or is it also a balance between reacting and responding? Which one is it good or bad?
I don't know. Thank you. I don't know whether it's a good or bad affair. Personally, I speak, with my own experience. I've learned that reacting to things, I regret a number of things afterward, because I've acted without thinking. Just yesterday, a young person I'm mentoring sent me a message. They've got a relationship at work, in their work setting. And they're two people managing a particular project. And the other person is more or less shifted the burden on my mentee. And every time she tries to ask the other person to take responsibility, it's as if, they just want to hide in their shadow, but ultimately they take the glory. So she immediately, because they're planning for something in the spring, and this person is not living up to, what they'd agreed. And I said, well, she's already sent this person a message to say, stop doing this, stop doing that, let's do this. So she sent to me and said, look, I've said this. Is that what I should have said? I'm feeling bad. And I said, oh, please don't take it negatively. I said, it doesn't matter what you say. You've said it now. They're going to interpret it as they see it. You can't change their interpretation. So we're going to now, in the course of the coming week, I'm going to have to teach her how to respond. So that issue, she needs to set a goal. What is it I want this person to be doing? Is there any change I want management to consider? Set that, as it were, the ultimate, or what she would like to happen. And then trace her steps back to where they are and try to put stages in between as to what she wants, objectives, if you like, that will help her to reach that goal. And that is not something you do in an instant. Even in your home, a husband might say something, a child might say something. You are a mature person, especially from our children. Mom, I'm going out with so-and-so person. You know in your mind. I was talking to a mother the other time. She has decided in her mind that this girl is not good for my son. I said, well, that's your view. Have you taken time to, she gave her reasons and all that. This person is in Nigeria, so it's not one of you. And by the time we finished speaking, and I was able to break it down, and to help her to see both the spiritual and the natural, and how to bring her son to her side, and not lose her son. I have stories I can tell you because I've lived on both sides. The key is to determine what you want out of that issue. Then work towards it. And I can promise you, most often, reaction does not work. It can work, but it doesn't produce the same result. And sometimes it causes more problems than responding. By responding, you take authority, you take control, and you are calm because you have seen the end, which they haven't seen. And you are taking your time to inject into it, at the appropriate stage, how you want it to happen. And you're not rushing anything, you're just calm. Don't worry whether time is flying, it doesn't matter. God is in control, whatever that thing is. It will happen in his own time. That's what you believe, that's what you pray for.
Thank you. That was quite articulate. On a lighter note, some women or ladies went to a restaurant, and while they were, waiting for the food to be served, a cockroach landed on one of them. And then she got up and was screaming and doing everything and, shaking herself all over. And then the cockroach fell on the next person. And then that one too went ahead and reacted, to what's going on. And just before it fell on to the third lady, the waiter quietly stayed there. And then as he stood, beside them, the cockroach fell on him, and he was just calm. She said you should be calm and think of what you want to do. He was calm, and then the cockroach was going, and he waited for the cockroach to continue a path instead of just all over the place. And after seeing it, he picked it and flung it out. That's what you wanted. That's responding. There's something that could have caused a chaotic situation, but you're calm and calculative and you're working. And at the right moment, you just get it. And it's easy to fling it off. But if you're just all over the place, you keep bouncing around. And before you know it, it comes back to haunt you. So let us always learn to respond and not react. Thank you.
Just to ask, I'm not very good with numbers. And when it comes to business, the thing is, like you said, if you're good with the numbers, then you know some of these things you're talking about, financial management and all those things. So when you start a business, what's your advice to those of us who are not economists or accountants or financial people about the business? Because really and truly, you do get stories of people who, because you're a novice, the people you actually come to do that take advantage of you and you don't know what's going on. Yeah. So how do we manage that?
Thank you. The thing to do is to close the knowledge gap. Just close the knowledge gap. I didn't start out a business person. I studied computer science with economics, but I was more in the IT, business analyst, programmer, and things like that. A software analyst, not business analyst in the terms of numbers. But I also took time to see what people are doing. So gradually, I'm not an accountant, but now when I talk to you, you think I'm an accountant because there's nothing they'll talk about that I won't be able to. So yes, you get, in our second session we said, yes, you get an accountant or an external auditor to audit your annual account, but ask questions. Ask questions. Oh, I've heard something about tax avoidance or tax evasion. Don't do tax evasion because it can end in prison. But how do I avoid tax? So that's your suit that you've just bought. How do you put it in the business as uniform? Because there's provision for uniform. And you have to dress smartly like that to meet your client. So you can put it there. That holiday that you're going with the family to the Bahamas, if any of them is on your, the directors on your papers, you are going for strategic meetings. So you pay for all their tickets. And you can take that out to reduce the tax that you're paying. That is okay. But you ask questions. If you don't ask questions, you don't know what is available for you there. And so the next person is doing the same business. You are making the same amount of money. She's paying 1,000 tax. You are paying 2,000 tax. Ask questions and learn. It's not so difficult. It's because we give ourselves that mind block. I don't know numbers. That's not my area. It's arithmetic. It's just subtraction and addition. That's what it's all about. Expense, income, expense. This one is a plus, this one is a minus. You know, when I'm teaching my children simultaneous equation is addition and subtraction. This person gave me money. So what has happened? I have more money. I am giving that person. What has happened? So that's why we learn plus, minus, minus is minus. Minus plus, plus is plus. You know, one is minus 2 naira or 2 pounds. The other one is plus 3 pounds. So what? I'm giving somebody 2, I have 3 pounds. What do I get? 1 pound. Oh, minus 3. Okay, I'm owing somebody 3. Plus 2, I have 2. What do I end up with? Minus 1. You know? But algebra, algebra, minus, 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 plus. Just simplify it in your mind, and you're there. And you're there. Yeah.
Okay, we have a question at the back.
Thank you very much, Sister Ramidema. You just helped me to shoot this question because you said, ask. If you don't ask, you don't receive or you don't know. So mine is not a question, I'm just asking. I'm setting up an online business for children's clothing. I've been working on it for like about 14 online children's clothing business. Clothing. I've been working on it for like a couple of months now, and I know my strength. I don't know everything. I'm struggling with the IT part of it. There's somebody who is very good at e-commerce, web management, you know, all this. Is it CRM they call it? I've learned so much, which I'm still learning, and they confuse me a lot. I'm good at the business part. I have the idea. I'm always like, you know, so many. But when it comes to all those IT and all those, you know, grammars with them, they just freak me out. So I'm just asking in this forum if anyone knows anyone who is very good at e-commerce, business, website management, please, I'll be a grab for that person. Thank you.
What I'm asking for is like an NHS staff, and you want to start a business. What are our restrictions so that we don't go overboard in that, or is it allowed or not allowed? Thank you.
So I'm assuming you're saying that whilst you work in the NHS, you also want to have your own private enterprise. Yes, you're allowed to do that. The rules are that you do not, you make sure that you declare any conflicts of interest. So say, for example, you were going to set up a business that would supply to the NHS. You need to declare that that's the case. And you cannot be involved in the decision-making to purchase from your own company. So in that scenario, you would have to let somebody, you could do the bidding, but somebody else has to make the decision. It's not your decision to make. But there's no reason why you couldn't set up your own business. And as long as you're using your own resources and you're not using NHS resources to run your business, that's fine. And you're doing it in your own time, that's fine.
Sorry, can I just add something to that? Depends on what are you setting a business in. Oh, no, you can't. Okay, you are good. You are okay. No, what I mean is that you are okay. Why I'm asking is that... No, please. Okay. No, it's not an NHS.
Okay, can we listen up, please? Can we listen? Let's listen. Let's allow Auntie to speak. Thank you.
No, the reason why I'm asking,
you.
They have some regulatory requirements, you know, if you work like as a care manager.
Can we settle down, please?
In two places, one in the NHS and one in the other. So you have a few things like that where you cannot, be a carer. No, it's all right. No, I just want you to remember that even within the health system, you have some regulations that can even get you. Like you cannot be a care manager in a particular place and be a care man, and then you have a private clinic where you know something like that, just because of the regulatory requirements. But if it's changing or retail, it's okay. It's way out of the NHS.
Thank you for the good laugh. I want to encourage my sister to make those chin-chin and bring them to the next conference. So when we start by patronizing you, then we will recommend you to other people. And then you start your networking from there. Okay? Amen.
One more question, please.
Praise God. Right, okay. Now that we're still on NHS, I have a question for you, sister. This is proper NHS question. About 2 years ago, I set up a service for the trust, part of my job. But this service is not funded by the clinical commissioners, but it's a need that patient asks for it. So when the hospital came up with bright ideas, I put it down. And they said, do all the explanations and whatever, which was done. Then this year, they just woke up to say, oh, this service actually is not legal for the trust. It was advertised over the radio. They interviewed me for this. But now the trust just woke up to say, no, this service is actually, because patients are being charged for it, it's not legal. Every service is free to the point of delivery, which we know about. So now this service, some of my staff are considering to take it up, to run it as private, as kind of enterprise. But the question is trying to set yourself away from them, because one, we have to make the referral, so there's still some conflict of interest, which is why, and I am dreading it, because I've had a meeting with my staff to say, look, we've spoken to the departments, and they said, well, because of what the trust has said, there's nothing we can do. And finding it hard to tell the patient, sorry, from next year, January, I'm sorry, this service is not going to be there. So I don't know what to do about it, because not necessarily that I want to do it, but my staff want to do it because that's their specialty. So I don't know, any suggestion to that?
Okay. I think that in terms of communicating to the patients, you shouldn't be doing that on your own. Your organization will have a communications department, and they should work with you around how you will deliver the message to stakeholders. because you need the trust's background and backing in terms of the messages that you deliver, and there needs to be clarity about the messages. Why are we closing the service? Because the media will be interested. So you talked about the fact that it's already been played out in the media. Closing this service, there is a high risk the media will pick it up and there will be interest in why it's closed. So actually there needs to be lines to take that's agreed with the organisation. So I'd encourage you to speak to your communications department to support you in coming up with the lines to take. That's the first thing. Around whether or not setting up an enterprise, actually the staff members can set up their own enterprise. So they will do it in the context of we spotted an issue in the market and we think this is something we can offer. And as long as, like I said to the other question before, as long as they are doing it in their own time and they are sure that they have the skills to deliver it, they need to be aware of the regulatory framework, depending on what it is, that they have the right skills, people registered to do it, and those sorts of things. Nothing precludes them from doing it. What you need to be sure about is the referral pathway that is established to enable that to happen. Depending on the type of service that they're setting up, they may still need sign-off from the CQC, for example, because if it's healthcare delivery, the Care Quality Commission needs to sign off whatever it is they're doing, if it's care delivery. So they need to be aware by the environment in which they're working in. And there needs to be an understanding within the trust. So again, your management needs to be aware about referral pathways and any recommendations you can make. And all you can do most of the time is to say, we don't offer this service, but you may want to consider X or Y. And actually, if they're setting up a service that other people are setting up, you can't just be seen to be referring people or recommending one area without recommending another. So again, there are some of those things that you just need to be aware of if that's the route that happens. But nothing stops them as independent people to go and set up a business and say, we want to offer this to the marketplace.
Very quickly, I'd just like to add to that. There are various forms of businesses your staff can come up with. I would advise speak to your local council. There must be an advisor in the council who can structure for them. That is taking it away from the NHS. And if you are, I would imagine you have some sort of local enterprise partnership. Well, you may not understand that, but there are... No, I'm talking of an advisor who can help you structure the business in terms of registration and connecting you with other government enterprise plans that would help you to look strategically as to how to set it across your area. In other words, taking it away from the NHS, but your staff are still there, and then they might suggest to you to have external directors who are not necessarily NHS staff to help to remove, to create that gap, basically. Talk to me afterwards.
My name is Chinyere Eraoyi. I've been listening to all our questions, and thank you to the facilitators. I work for HMRC, and I've heard some people asking about tax and other things. What I would say is that we are Christians, and in doing our businesses, it's important that we are as transparent as possible, so that if there's any need for HMRC to investigate you, you will not be found guilty in any way. Yeah. The tax we try to evade sometimes, you will find out that it's just little amount that is required of you to pay. For instance, if you're working and you have a business, HMRC will only look at your business and the things you use to run the business. They will tax you on interest after you have submitted your papers to make your tax. So I would say that if you have a business, whether you are getting a turnover or not, you should register yourself for self-assessment. It's so easy. You just go online. All you need is your login details. The computer will do the mathematics for you. It's better that you submit your tax and they will tell you you have nothing to declare than that you are saying, I don't earn enough to pay tax, and then they will see you as somebody. You know how the press will take it, OFNC, or a Christian, or somebody that has been earning this and is not paying tax. So we're in the position of authority as children of God, just register yourself for self-assessment and you will be covered. Thanks.
I'll just quickly ask a question myself, and this is a broad one to anyone on the panel. What are your tips for taking action on something you've learned today when it's been so much, but if there's one thing that really stuck out to you, how would you advise taking action and moving forward? Because it's easy to be inspired in one day, but then to apply it, it's a bit harder.
I think I'll start. So the question was, how do we take action after all we have learned today? So one little tip that we discussed was, I feel every business person should have a dream book, what we call a dream book, in a drawer beside the bed, because ideas tend to come in the morning. Also, notes that have been taken today, pictures that might have been taken on notes, because we talked about pictures, should be stored on your 3G phone and then emailed to yourself in case the phone crashes. And then have a plan on the specific steps that you want to take in order to achieve the things you know you need to achieve. Find out why you cannot achieve them. Think over why you can't. Decide how you are going to achieve them, maybe by contacting people, like we have been saying, maybe by networking, maybe by researching, decide how you are going to achieve those things. And then draw out a timeline. We talked about goals in many of the sessions. Set measurable, achievable goals. And then back them up with action. And then revise after a period of time. If you have not achieved some of those things, assess yourself and be honest with yourself why you have not. Is it because they were unachievable in the first instance? Is it because you are just lazy? Is it because, and then revisit it with yourself and then act again.
Yeah, thank you. I think you've touched some of the points. The only thing I'll advise you, as many as we are here, that's how many the Holy Spirit has if you listen, some things lit up to you. And they are different things. Just be faithful to that light you got. When you go, just examine, take 1 or 2 notes. Don't be too ambitious, because if you are, you will end up not doing anything. But those things that really lit up to you, take it up, write them down, take it to the Holy Spirit, and see what you can do to affect change in just that area. If it's just that one light, this time next year, you will have a testimony too.
Something you might also find useful, I find it helpful. Have someone you can be accountable to. Even if they're not your mentors, just somebody, could be your husband, your children. Our children are now professionals. Confide in them. Tell them what you're trying to achieve. They can help you. They can begin to map for you the milestones and help you to monitor them. Let someone be accountable to somebody, especially if you are not someone who could be self-motivated enough to actually step out and do things.
I just want to say something that I've learned that's really helped me. Steve Covey said, if you have more than 3 priorities, you have no priorities. So you have to know what is important to you. If you want to, like you said, you've heard so much today, you can't do everything at once. What is your key priority? If your key priority is to start a business, do it. If your key priority is to get a promotion at work, take it on. If your key priority is to raise your children, then that's your key priority. But don't try to do everything together and end up with average results. Take your priorities and run with it.
Wow. That was such amazing insight. Thank you. Thank you all. I think that is all for today. Can we give another round of applause for our amazing panelists?